indeed. Very, very quick. I just put the phone down. You forgot this. In rehearsals, we had the briefcase.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Now, you don't mind the film crew being here, do you?
Not at all.
Because they live with me.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I need some information about satellite installation, satellite television. Come this way.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can help me. I mean, I really don't know where I am with all this. Sit down. Take your jacket off.
Thanks.
Relax. Now, I've, just sling it over the back. That's it. That's great. Now sit down, Peter. I'm told that you are the foremost authority on satellite television. And I had this terrible dream yesterday. I was running around here with dustbin lid, trying to fix it on the side of the house, trying to get up high enough to put it on the roof. I mean, where do I start?
Well, perhaps to start, James, you ought to know a little bit about the history, because everybody sort of thinks that this is a new phenomenon. It's happened now. Everybody's talking about satellite television. But way back in 1945, there was a serving officer in the RAF who was better known for other things, in fact. You've probably heard of him, Arthur C. Clarke, the man who wrote the science fiction stuff. Yeah. And he had a brilliant idea that if it were possible to have sufficient rocket power to put artificial communication satellites in a certain position, then he could establish worldwide communication.
So why is it then that there seems to be so much difficulty? I was talking to a neighbour the other day. They have a satellite dish, and they say they can never get a decent picture from it. They're going to get rid of it.
Right. Well, the essential part of any system is that the satellite dish must be able to see the satellite.
Oh, they had it right on the chimney, right as high up as they can get it.
No. The dish itself doesn't need to be high up.
It
The dish can be anywhere, as long as it can see the position of the satellite it wants to receive. But the dish itself is the thing that receives the signals. And you've been to Jodrell Bank, haven't you?
Yep.
And you've seen the big dish there, which they call a telescope. Well, these radio signals, television signals, you can treat them just like light. You know, an optical telescope magnifies the thing, and the radio telescope magnifies the signals, the weak signals getting in. And in effect, the dishes are little radio telescopes.
So I could have my satellite dish on the patio?
Providing that it can see the satellites. Now, all these satellites that carry this television are over the equator.
So, how does one know where on earth all these satellites are?
Well, I've got a model that will show you.
Oh, that was clever.
Well, this is the Earth.
Looks like a melon. I'll remove the moon and stars in that case.
Right. This is the Earth, and that's the United States.
Looks like the United States is in an awful mess.
It does, doesn't it, rather?
Yeah.
And this is the UK.
Is it?
All right.
Blue square.
Blue square is the UK. Round
We'll get that there, okay?
North Pole, South Pole,
Yeah.
across the middle, the equator.
Fine.
Right. Above the equator are
Sort of
all the
metal
satellites.
skewer.
A metal skewer with a satellite on the end of it.
Right.
Okay. Now then, the Earth, as you know, is rotating.
Yeah.
Once every 24 hours it rotates a day. The satellites are placed in such a position that they also take 1 day to orbit the Earth. So from the UK, although everything is turning, that point to that point is stationary.
So they never move from this. They keep the same sort
They
of...
keep in that position
Yeah.
all the time. And this is, in honour of the man who first thought of it, this is called the Clark Belt. And the position of that is a particular position which enables them to rotate at the same speed as the Earth.
Yeah, the only problem it's got nothing to do with this, I'm just interested, is that there's so much junk up there, apparently.
Well, yes, but not just in that position. There's plenty of room for it.
There is?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
plenty
fine.
of room for it. I mean, there are hundreds of these television satellites in that position. Now, and if we could do something with this model that we couldn't do in real life, if we could turn that like that, now we've got the equator going round here. If you wanted to look at that satellite and you happened to be standing on the equator, which is that position, that satellite would be immediately above your head.
That'd have been lucky. What about if I was standing here on the equator?
Then it would be here, but only east or west. So if you had a dish
on the equator,
it
or
would
west?
only move east or west.
Ah, I'm ahead of you. So now in Britain, it's got to be south.
Absolutely. The equator is south, so we are looking at a particular angle. But nevertheless, all those satellites there, which are south of this point, will be visible to a place on the Earth, but as you move round, they will disappear. Because of the curvature of the Earth, you couldn't see it. If that was the UK there and the satellite was at this position, you wouldn't see this satellite.
But because it's so far away, you're never going to get as good pictures from satellite as you do from terrestrial TV, are you?
In fact, that's not true. You actually get better pictures with a properly installed system from satellite television than you do from terrestrial television.
Really?
Yes.
A lot of people say that their satellites are not nearly as good, but they understand that because it's so far away.
Well, that is a misnomer, and hopefully at the end of this little exercise, we'll be able to prove to you that you can get better pictures from satellite than you can from the terrestrial.
Do you foresee a time when all TV will be broadcast from satellites and not from these large masts all over?
Personally, I do, because if you think of the terrestrial television as it is at the moment, when you're getting your 4 channels, for example, there are basically 5 of these tall masts. There's Emley-Moore, Billsdale and various ones. And they are just to cover the United Kingdom, and even they can't do it because there are a lot of these little fill-in relay stations to do it. Well, each of those buildings has to be built, it has to have ground, it has to have an electricity supply, it has to be maintained. And it covers perhaps Yorkshire or Scotland or Wales, all having electricity bills to pay and so on and so forth. One satellite could not only, or does not only cover the whole of the UK, it covers the whole of mainland Europe as well, or can do, and it has no electricity charges, no building charges, no maintenance charges.
Oh,
so economically...
You've sold me. You've sold me. So what I want now is the best system.
There again, you've got to decide what sort of system you want. And at the moment, probably the starting point is to go for something... Everybody has heard about Sky Television. Well, they broadcast 5 programmes on a particular satellite called Astra.
They're the ones that everybody's complaining because they look ugly.
Well, there again, a lot of that is dependent on how the dishes are installed. You mentioned before about sticking them high up. It really isn't necessary. Providing we could see the satellite, it could be stood on the ground down here. It doesn't have to be up there.
How do you find out where have you got something to, I mean, what do you do to find out where the satellite is?
I can show you where the satellite is. I mean, where we are here at the moment, you were saying you would have liked to put the dish somewhere here. Well, unfortunately, of course, you're looking to the west over there. So there's no point in putting a dish here. The road in front runs north and south. So all the satellites are sort of over in that direction.
So it might have to be on the front of the house.
Could need to be on the front of the house, but we'll have to look at that and see. And there is a little technical instrument that we can use to show where these are.
I think I left it in the car.
He left it in the car.
Shall I fetch it?
We better cook for a minute.
Now, come on, Dr. Dish. Or was it Dish Doctor?
Dish Doctor, it
Dish Doctor.
I answer to anything.
How did you become the Dish Doctor?
Well, the magazine that I write for, the editor, Louise, she's a smashing girl, and she called me the Dish Doctor.
Did she? And I think it
So
suits you.
it's,
I think it suits you. It's a bit noisy around here with the road, so let's go over this way.
Okay.
Now, this
This is a technical piece of equipment.
looks like a theodolite. You didn't know I knew technical terms
No,
like that. It's thrown you, hasn't it?
It has rather. It's a sextant rather than a theodolite.
Oh, is it?
But
Oh, one of those
same
things,
Same
yes.
one of those things. Right, we established that Astra was in a particular position, didn't we?
Yeah.
So wherever you are going to receive it from, you have some information. You know its position in azimuth, which is the bearing.
Yes.
And you know its elevation, which is the height.
Yeah.
So, being provided with that information, you can set this sextant. Now, you'll have to take it from me that in this location, Astra is 26 degrees elevation.
Right. How do you know that?
Well, these are figures which are published.
Okay, fine.
And associated with your location.
Yeah, I just wanted to know whether you made it up. That's
No,
all.
no, I've checked. It's the same as mine.
Good,
It covers a large area. And we know we've in here a compass, so we've got to find south, basically. First of all, because they're all towards the south. So if we look through this viewfinder, if we look for 180 degrees, we should be looking south. Right. That's the first thing we've got to do. So there I'm looking, in fact, at 100 and 200, 190, 180. So south is over there, okay?
Right.
So your idea of a dish on this side of the house just wouldn't work because you can't see through. So we've got to find a position for it. Now, the other thing is, and I'll show you this in a moment, we set it to the Astra azimuth, which being 19.2 degrees east of south, we now set this to 160. Near enough. Okay, so Astra is over there.
Right.
And operating the lights in here, I can now see clear sky. So
Yeah.
you can, in fact, see Astra
Can I have
from
a go?
this. But have a go.
Hang
Press
on.
the button and get the lights.
Yeah, and
if those are lit,
Yeah.
you can see at that angle. So if you then look at the compass, which is in the left-hand side
Yeah.
of the mirror, point till you see 160 degrees, and you will then see whether you can see Astra, which you can, of course.
160 is there. Now, both
That-
lights are gone out. I want to come
Now,
back a bit.
tip it up to get the lights
Oh,
on.
all right, okay.
The yellow light
yeah,
is vertical,
There,
the red is the angle.
there. Yeah, 160, 2 lights on.
Good.
I'm blowed if I can see a satellite up
Well,
there.
it's
You
a
sure
bit
up
far
there?
away. A bit far away, but
Okay, Dish Doctor, I'll take your I'll take your word for it. So
you
it's
can
all right.
see Astra from here.
Fine,
So you
okay.
can put your dish here if you like. Put it
Here
there on the lawn.
on the lawn here.
Yeah, why not?
I've got to run a cable to the house. I'd
Yeah.
rather have it sort of clear.
Right.
You
Well,
know.
obviously your first idea of having it on this wall wouldn't work because, of course, the
Yeah.
satellite's through there. You could put it on the front of the house, but there again, everybody passing sees the dish.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
necessary.
yeah.
How about on the chimney up there? It would see
Now
it
that'd
from
be
there.
a good idea on the chimney.
But then, do you ever get strong winds?
Oh yes, a lot of strong winds.
All
around
right,
here.
not easy to get at. So
Yeah.
why not compromise? Not on the chimney,
Uh-huh.
not on the lawn, somewhere in between at a reasonable height on that end wall.
Okay, well it'll be less obtrusive than the ordinary TV aerial, won't it?
Should be,
Yeah.
certainly.
Okay. One
And-
thing. Sorry.
Carry on.
This.
Yeah, you don't
Not all of
really
us
need...
can get one of these.
No, you
Right.
don't really need that. If you had a compass, you
Yeah.
could find south.
Oh, compass.
Compass.
Another good hand there.
So
yes.
we could find south with that. Or, you know where you live,
Yeah.
look on a road map.
Yeah.
In your particular case, the road at the front travels north and south. So you know that down there is south. So you can calculate it from
What
that.
about the sort of up and down business?
Yes, well, you've got to measure that angle.
Right.
And if you come to my place, we'll show you how you measure that angle.
Okay.
But you can do it, in fact, with a protractor and a little piece of string with a weight on it.
Okay.
You can measure the angle that way.
All right. What about the little lights? You need lights or not?
No, you don't need lights. That just tells you that
Yeah.
I mean, if you see clear sky when you're looking at the appropriate angle, that's all you need.
Okay.
That's a sophisticated device.
Right, let's give this back to the director, and then he'll move something else into shot you can talk about, which
Right.
is here.
Well, you mentioned your television aerial,
Yeah.
terrestrial television
Yeah.
aerial.
Ugly-looking thing, really, isn't it?
Yes, and as you go around the country, you'll find, yours isn't a good example, but you'll find that a lot of those aerials have the rods either horizontally
Yeah.
or vertically. And the reason for that is, in your particular case, you're looking at one of the high power stations, and that is a horizontally
Yeah.
polarized one.
Yeah.
Now, I'm using a term here, polarizing, and they do this because there are a lot of television channels carrying different programs, and they could interfere with each other. So the method of transmission is such that they polarize the signals. And this doesn't mean anything to you at this point in time, probably.
Not a thing.
But the high-power stations are horizontally polarized,
Yes.
and the medium-power relay stations are vertically polarized.
So they need to wear sunglasses, not to...
No.
No, okay.
No, polarization. You can polarize radio waves just as much as you can polarize light waves.
Right, okay.
And these
Nothing to do
polari-
with snow blindness at the poles?
Not at the
no,
moment,
okay, fine.
not yet.
Okay,
So if you use polarized spectacles
right.
to look at the sun, and if we look through those,
Yeah.
and with two pairs of polarized spectacles,
Yeah.
if you put one in front of the other
Right.
and rotate it, you'll see the sun disappears virtually, or the light disappears. Can you see? As
Oh,
we
that's
turn that
clever.
through 90 degrees,
Where do you learn all this stuff?
oh, it's very technical.
When do you ever play around like... Oh, yeah. So when it disappears...
That's the opposite polarization.
Oh,
So you've got horizontal and vertical.
yeah.
And the reason I brought this in now is that all the satellite programs are
Yeah.
also polarized 90 degrees apart.
Yeah.
They call them horizontal and vertical, but that's only the angle as they leave the satellite. So when they arrive here, they kind of scoot a bit. They will be 90 degrees apart all the time, but I like to call them X and Y rather than horizontal and vertical. Because
Fine.
horizontal and vertical is confusing to the installer.
Okay, fine, yeah. Not
So,
telephone.
do you...
Do you remember what was next?
yes.
Telephone. We were going to
Yeah.
ring your mate.
That's right. You've decided that you would like to give a whirl to an Astra system.
Well, if you're sure, Dish Doctor, then we'll go for it.
Right, well, I have a mate that does
Apart
a
from
good
anything
job.
else, I was thinking that it might encourage the people who own them to give me a show on there.
Now
or
that-
another show.
That's a
Yeah,
thought,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a thought.
Get dialing.
So, this friend of mine,
Yeah.
he does a good job, and we'll ask him if he can come and help us.
Okay.
Joe,
Good motivation there, very good.
Joe,
Good acting.
I'm with
It's okay,
James
we can
Whale.
cut, we can cut now.
Oh, that melon was good, Peter.
Excellent, wasn't it?
Yes, I didn't like the squishy bit around America much.
No,
but
I
never
thought we
mind.
were going to give that to Graham, actually.
Oh, nice.
Oh, here's... Hello,
Peter.
Joe.
I best get this round to the
Oh,
lads.
dish.
Otherwise you're not going to have no picture
Right.
at all.
Thank you.
Okay then.
Hi,
Catch you
Joe.
later on. How do you do?
That's nice. Nice colour, that. I like black.
Yeah.
I particularly like
Yeah,
black.
yeah.
Right, well, I think we ought to go inside now and see what happens inside.
Yes,
You
okay.
lead on the way, all right?
Right, sir.
Off you go. What do you expect? Royal Shakespeare Company? You know, it's remarkable, this security system I've got here. Look at that. You can see Joe and his team out there working away, getting the satellite system installed. Now, Dr. Dish Doctor, whatever. I understand basically the principle, but I mean, satellites are continually moving, aren't they? I mean, what happens if they get out of orbit or something like that?
Right. Well, you remember the melon?
Yeah.
And we stuck a pin in and we said that is the Astra satellite and that it could see about a third of the Earth's surface. All the satellites that are in geostationary orbit are in that Clark belt. So they're all around the equator. In fact, I can show you a graphic that illustrates that. But yes, they do move.
Yeah.
But they are moving at the same speed as the Earth. So, of course, from any place on Earth, they appear to be stationary.
Okay, let's have a turn that around. That's rather nice. Yes, you talk me through this. Okay.
We've got the equator there.
Yeah.
And in a few seconds' time, you'll see a representation of the Clark belt with the satellites on it. There
there
they
we
are.
are. There it is, yep.
See, a number of satellites. Well, obviously, these at this site can see this third of the globe, and these at this site can see that third. And
so
they're
what
all
they see in
moving.
South America is different to what we see up here.
Precisely.
Ah,
because
right.
it's
Okay.
beyond our horizon.
Yeah, so we're never likely to be able to see those.
Well, it would be possible if, like when Arthur Clarke said at first, there were three satellites carrying the same program. Three satellites would cover the entire surface of the Earth. But as far as moving is concerned, there is the natural pull of the Earth all the time. And they're all allocated at certain positions, like we mentioned that Astra was at 19.2 degrees east. So what happens is that on each satellite there's a little booster rocket, and these are controlled from Earth to maintain the position. As they drift apart, there's a signal sent up and they move back into their allocated position.
So they're not just sent up there and left and forgotten about. People are keeping an eye on them the whole
all the time. All the time. But in the case of the Astra, that is controlled from Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And they are monitoring it continuously, and if it starts to drift about, they fire these little rockets. And what's important as far as the life of the satellite is concerned is not the electronic equipment on the satellite, which is powered from the sun's rays, which charge batteries, but the amount of fuel on board to maintain its position on the Clark belt. When that fuel runs out, hard luck, you can't do anything more
Well, how
about
long
it.
is that going to take?
Well, a lot of it is dependent on how accurately the satellites are launched, but they average between 7 and 12 years at the moment.
So what happens after that 12-year period is finished?
It becomes another piece of space junk, I'm afraid.
But does that mean that our equipment is obsolete?
No, because what happens is, as it's reaching the end of its life, another satellite is sent up and put generally in the same position, and then all the programs are transferred to it.
So we won't suddenly have a break in transmission time?
No.
We don't have to worry about that?
Don't have to worry about that at all.
Great, that's a load off my mind. A load off my mind.
In fact, James, I can show you a bit from the Astra promotional video that shows how their satellite, and in fact all the other satellites, are launched into the Clark belt.
OK, let's have a look at that.
Right.
Now, what's happening?
Right. Well, there is the Astra satellite about to enter into its geostationary orbit. The next time round, here it goes into geostationary. That circle representing the geostationary orbit. There was a little burst of power there as they used the booster rocket.
So it's like a catapult flinging
in
it
effect,
out.
in effect. And you can just see the solar panels there that pick up the energy from the sun to power all the electrical equipment. So there we are in geostationary orbit, 22,300 miles above the Earth. This is much nearer. This is only 180 miles up. And you see it's going much quicker than the Earth. It's rotating once every hour and a half. And the moon, just coming into shot, is travelling much slower than the Earth, taking 28 days to go once round. And so in between there, the Astra and all the other communications satellites at the same speed as the Earth. So where the moon and the near one move from the Earth, the Astra one appears stationary.
Excuse me, I've just a question here.
Yes.
Don't the other satellites get in the way?
Are we still
Great
recording?
transmission. Yeah.
Oh, good, good, good. Yeah, keep recording. Hang on, we'll get a
No.
shot of you asking the question, Graham. Right, yeah, that's okay. Pan right onto Graham. Graham's got a question. All right, just tilt up on him. That's fine. It looks very good. Yeah. Okay, Graham. What's your question?
My question is, do the other satellites in geostationary orbit get in the way and break transmission of Astro, or are they?
No, they don't, because they're all at exactly the same distance from the Earth
But what
in
about the
different
ones that are
positions.
spinning around in
Oh,
circles every 90
yes.
minutes?
That's right, but that's insignificant. I mean, that's only the size of a double-decker bus.
Well, I have a question now as well. If they're the size of a double-decker bus, I mean, how big is the Astra satellite?
The Astra satellite is about, half the size of this room as a cube.
Half the size of this room?
Yeah.
So that's not
I mean-
as big as a double-decker bus.
No, no, no.
So it is
smaller.
quite
It is
tiny.
smaller. Quite small,
Yeah.
yeah.
I've got a question, Peter.
Have you? Perhaps I should operate the sound and the cameras. Carry on, Phil.
If they can power the electrics via solar panels, why can't they fire the thrusters and direct the satellite via the same method of power?
Well, nobody has yet, I think, devised anything powerful enough to work from batteries that would do that.
OK, let's move on slightly. Now, one of the technical terms that I hear quite a lot is the footprint. Now, apart from the footprints of Joe and his mates all over my garden outside, I mean, what is this?
Right. You remember that we said you can see, or the satellite can see about 1/3 of the Earth's surface?
Yeah.
Well, if the amount of energy from the satellite was distributed over 1/3 of the Earth's surface, it would be minuscule. It would be so minute that you probably wouldn't be able to pick it up with a dish. So what they do, they concentrate the signals from the satellite into an area called a footprint. So that instead of spilling a lot of energy over the unpopulated Atlantic, they concentrate it on, we'll say, to Europe. The land
Well, how do you
mass of
manage to
Europe.
do that? I mean,
Well, your dish,
Yeah.
as I said, is a radio telescope, and it points at a particular position. They use the opposite way of that. They use a radio telescope on the satellite to point at a particular position on the Earth and concentrate the energy. And in fact, one satellite, as you can see from this graphic here, that one satellite, in fact, covers there Europe, part of North Africa, and over there. But in between there are no signals, you see. It's only within those little circles.
so if I'm on a boat in the Pacific somewhere, or the Atlantic,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't actually be able to pick up
Not
satellite
unless
TV?
not unless you were under that particular footprint.
Now, this is another term you can explain for me while we're here. There's an uplink and a downlink. We use this term in broadcasting quite a lot. What's that?
Right, well, we're getting the programmes down from the satellite, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we've got, in some way, to get them up to the satellite.
So that's how the programmes that I may be making,
Yes.
or anybody else may be making, get to the satellite.
From the
look at
studio,
that.
it goes into an even bigger dish, and the signals
Yeah.
are fired up to the satellite, through the transponder on the satellite, down into the footprint so that people can pick it up.
So that TV studios, satellite TV studios, have to have a huge dish on their roofs.
No, they send it by cable, post office tower, out to Goonhilly or something like that, or the London Teleport. And in the case of Astra,
Yeah.
there are various uplinks, not just from one place.
OK, so now we know how the signal gets up to the satellite from the Earth and how it comes back down to our receivers. I think the next thing I need to know, really, is what all this gubbins is you've put in the bottom of your television set.
OK, James, we'll put the telly on.
Right.
See you.
There we are, BBC One.
You've a bit of a problem there, James.
Oh, mind you, the TV repairman, he came, he said that's the best you're going to get on that sort of thing.
Oh. Have you a control for the video?
Yeah, oh yeah,
Let's
yeah,
have a look.
yeah. There we are. We can get it on number 6 as well, BBC, but...
There. If I switch your video off, all that funny pattern disappears, you see?
Oh, that's quite
clean.
clever. Why does that happen?
Well, you're lucky here, you say you've got 2 BBC Ones, 2 of
Yeah.
every programme. Well, all these are transmitted on a particular frequency,
see.
a different
I see.
frequency. And to get your pictures from your video recorder, that also has a little transmitter built into it.
Uh-huh.
And what happens is, if the frequency on the video recorder is near to one of the frequencies for the normal terrestrial television, it can produce that sort of pattern effect that we're seeing. And what I think is happening is that your video recorder is causing that pattern to be on this particular BBC One transmission. That patterning that we're seeing there now, if I switch your video recorder off like that, the pattern disappears.
Oh, that's good. That's a better picture.
Yeah. So what we can do now is try to retune the transmitter on your video recorder.
Right, okay.
And in order to do that, we need to find where there is a clear channel on your television set.
So I can't have BBC One on number 1?
You can, but you can have it, we hope, without that interference.
Okay.
So what we'll do, I'll pop through and find what looks like a clear channel, and 15 or something. Well, let's have a look at. It's one of these that you've got to press. How do you get 15?
Well, press 15.
Oh, 15.
There. Press 15 there. It's quite straightforward, this one, you see.
Yeah, there you are. You see, I'm trying to be technical.
Yes.
Now, that looks to me to be fairly clean. There's 14, 16, 15 looks fairly clean. So what we can do now, on your video recorder, there should be a little switch that will allow us to put a signal onto the television.
Shall I switch that for you?
Please.
Yeah. Hang on. You better come and have a look at the thing. Come around here. Graham. And then. Oops.
Around the back of the video is a test signal switch, and we'll switch on the test signal. Now then, have we got anything?
No, nothing's happening.
Right. So now what I'm going to do is retune your video recorder.
Right.
Will you give me a shout if you see some white bars appear? There's a little screwdriver adjustment back here, and I'm going to start turning that until hopefully we can find the signal.
Back. Thick bars.
Yeah, 2 white bars.
Okay, back a bit. No, too far.
Oh, I can't
too
see.
Far.
I can't see from down there. Now, there we are.
Good.
Okay. So now I've retuned your video to a spare channel on your television set.
The trouble is, Peter, I'll get very bored watching those 2 white lines.
Right. Well, that's easily solved because all I do now is turn off the test signal.
Good.
Okay.
Good. Yes.
Happy at that?
Yeah, that's much better.
Now the proof of the pudding now is when we go back to your BBC One.
No, you sit over here.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there is one point I wanted to make.
Yes.
What you found is cricket. That's only marginally more exciting than 2 ordinary white lines.
I'm very sorry about that. An interesting comment, James, but one not shared by Jeff Boycott, I suppose. Patterning is a serious widespread problem, which is compounded because satellite TV tuners also have an RF modulator that can interfere as well. Most modern TV sets tune automatically to the strongest signals, and often there is no indication of the chosen channel. Some older sets had a way of showing the channel tuning. To avoid patterning, RF modulators should be tuned to an unused part of the band, or wherever possible, you should use direct audio-video connections. A useful tip is to tune the same channels to similar numbered positions on both the TV set and the video recorder. And now back to the action.
Well, there we are. Yes, I'm very pleased with that, Peter. It's nice and neat, tucked out of the way. Excellent. Now, you're sure this has been a good professional installation?
I think it is, but Joe will tell you all the salient points.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, James.
Now, you haven't messed my wall up, have you?
No, what we've done, just drilled a nice little hole in there. With silicone, so you won't get any damp into it.
Good.
Put a little drip, so any water running down won't run uphill, so all the water will drip down into your garden.
I see.
So
when somebody comes to install it, you should look out for that. Make sure they put it under the hole.
The biggest problem with a lot of installers is they'll just run a cable down and drill it straight in, and water runs straight down and into the back of the receiver. You can also get into your walls and cause damp and everything.
So always make sure the cable comes up from below the hole. Okay.
Right.
Anything else we should look out for?
Well, just make sure it's nice, tidy, all the way up. And if we follow onto the dish, you'll see there's a loop there to stop any water from feeding back up onto the LNB, another one on the LNB. So any water won't run down the cable. All in all, a cracking installation.
What's the LNB?
Oh, that's the thing on the end of the dish.
Oh, that's that little black thing where you get all the stuff in.
Beads will explain all that to you.
Yeah, the dish doctor will tell me all about that.
That's right.
Joe, thanks very much indeed.
James, thank you.
That's been great, fantastic.
Right.
If that, I'll see you tomorrow as well when I'm coming to have a look at the way you farm your dishes.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Come and see the dish farm.
Okay, thanks very
Okay.
much indeed.
Cheers.
Bye, guys.
So long.
Cheers.
Well, I think now I'm going to go inside and enjoy some of the new channels on satellite television, but for some of you who haven't yet got one installed, this is what you're missing.
Satélite TV, la revista para la nueva era de la televisión. Para que conozcas la programación de todos los canales, uno a uno y día a día. Satélite TV. Para que selecciones las mejores películas. Satélite TV, la revista para la nueva era de la televisión. Ahora lo tienes muy fácil, pidiéndolo así. Mensualmente en tu kiosco, Satélite TV.
James, you found us.
Oh, my God, gosh. What on earth do you hide yourself out here for?
It's a good place to hide.
It's a very good place. You don't mind if I strip off slightly?
No,
It's so
please
warm.
do. It is.
OK, Dr. Dish Doctor.
That's him.
I've been to all your neighbours.
Good.
You're obviously very well known in this area. Lee,
Come through and have a look what a mess we've
what
got
on
here.
earth is this?
This is the dish farm.
This is the dish farm.
This is the dish farm.
Well, that's bigger than the one I've had.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. And so is this. That's a
It
bit
is
bigger
too.
as well.
Yes. Yeah, in
But
fact,
there
they're-
you are.
They're all a bit bigger.
Brick wall.
Brick wall.
Wall at this side.
Wall this side.
Edge at that
Edge
side.
at that side. You can stick it anywhere.
Pretty
Stick it anywhere.
As long as you can see over that
Yeah.
wall.
The problem, of course, I had was that I was up so late last night flicking through all the new satellite TV channels, I just couldn't get myself up to get here in time. Now, what do we do?
Right.
I've come for my instructions so I know as much as you do about satellite TV.
Right. Well, I think we'll start with polarisation. Remember, yesterday, we were looking at the terrestrial aerial and we were talking about horizontal and vertical. And I said that the satellites, some were horizontal and some were vertical.
Yep, yep.
We've got a little demonstration just to show you how simple that is.
Take it away.
Okay?
Okay.
Right, we'll have a look over here. If you look at that monitor down there,
Yep.
can you see there's a bit of Wimbledon?
Yes.
Well, in fact, if you listen to the sound, you'll hear they're talking in German, and unfortunately, I can't hear them. There we are.
Oh, yes, cheering in German,
Now,
yes, yes. There's a marked difference there.
There is. This is where that signal's coming from. This dish, and this is the electronics, the LNB. If I
Not
turn...
dangerous to touch that?
No. If I turn this through 90 degrees, you should lose that picture, and you should get a different one.
Go on then.
Okay.
I'm watching. Oh, that's clever.
There you are.
Yeah.
You're watching Italy now.
Bit of a problem to get up to wherever your satellite dish is every time you want to change channel.
Ah, well, you don't do that. This is just a demonstration. On yours at home, there are two of these and one cable, and it switches between the two. Instead of it turning like that, it does it electronically.
So this is the sort of thing I'd move up to, really, when I became a real enthusiast.
Absolutely, and this would get you more than you can get with the fixed dish system.
Oh, so this one isn't fixed like mine?
No.
This you can move.
Exactly.
And what do you do to do that?
Right, well, we'll show you.
Okay.
If you'd like to come round this side.
Right, okay. This time, let's keep them all in. What's this here for? Do I? Little technical?
That represents the road in front of your house. I'll tell you more about that later.
Right, okay.
This little device here is telling us it's on a satellite.
Yeah. What's that ticking?
That ticking indicates that there is a signal coming from the satellite. All
Okay.
right? So we're now going to move it over.
I see.
Went stronger, and we're now on a different satellite.
So it's a bit like a Geiger counter.
Very similar.
I see.
Very similar. So now we've moved from Eutelsat 2 Flight 2 to Eutelsat 2 Flight 1.
So you could pick up practically every satellite on the Clark belt with this?
Providing this dish could see it. And if you remember, we had to set your dish at a particular azimuth and a particular elevation. As we move this dish, both the azimuth and the elevation angles change.
Remind me what azimuth is again?
Azimuth is the bearing relative to north and south.
It's that way instead of that way.
And elevation is that
Yeah,
way.
okay.
Okay? And if you look at the front of there...
Side to side instead of up and down.
Exactly.
Fine, yes, I'm with you.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you look on there, I've put an angle measuring device.
Ah, yeah.
It should be reading
Okay.
something like about 28 degrees.
Yeah,
something like that.
about midway between 20 and 30. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Well, now I'm going to move the dish further east, round to Astra, and that angle should go lower. Here we go, round towards Astra.
Right, there we are. Turning round, there we are.
You'll hear this bleep.
Yeah.
There, we're on Astra.
Right, that's going back to 22, 23?
A little bit higher than that. but
Maybe it depends on... Yes, I see.
It's a thick
Yeah,
pointer.
yeah.
But now, there we are,
Yeah.
looking, and this dish is looking at 19.2 degrees east of south.
Now, the yellow strip down here,
There we are.
that's my road.
That's your road, so that's looking
Sure.
south.
And the end of my house here
Is looking over there.
Yeah, so this is where my dish is on
Your
the...
dish is looking over there.
Right.
Okay.
Fascinating. It all fits together like a jigsaw puzzle, doesn't it, really?
And of course, following it to its logical conclusion, if you continued round to the east, you would eventually meet the horizon.
Yeah.
Well, there are still some more satellites below our horizon, the American ones, for example.
But you won't be able to get those.
You don't get those because you can't see them.
Sure.
Because
Sure.
of the curvature of the Earth. And one thing about this particular dish is its size. It's just over 90 centimetres. And generally speaking, you don't require planning permission for dishes which are under 1 metre in diameter
So you can stick that up,
without
Asking.
special planning permission.
even on the side of the house?
Even on the side of the house. I mean, obviously, if it's a listed building or something like that, you might
Yeah.
run into problems there.
Okay,
But
now-
basically, this is made this size to avoid having to have planning permission.
Okay. You've got a lot here in the farm. Let's have a look at some of the other inhabitants of the farm.
Right.
Presumably, if this is on Astra, over here, we can get a shot over here. These are all on different satellites. They're all pointing at different angles, aren't they?
Right. These are not on
Yeah.
different satellites. These are actually on
To get
Astra.
a bit of movement, you stay there, Peter.
Right.
I'll move over here, you see.
Right,
And then
okay.
we'll a better shot up here, probably. Right. Now, these are all on Astra,
Yeah, these three are
but
on
they're
Astra.
not. They're pointing over here at my
That young
eldest.
cameraman. Yes. Right. Well, they aren't actually.
Aren't they?
Because, no, if you look at remember the original dish?
Yeah.
The electronic gubbins, the LNB, was right out in front of the dish. That's what's called a prime focus dish. These are pointing up like that. These are offset dishes, up and so it's actually looking at the same angle as that one.
Yeah. So this is almost vertical.
Almost
so
vertical.
if you only had a wall, you could put it on vertically. This would be the
An
sort of thing you
offset
do.
dish is the type to use. But one of the problems that you get with all dishes is that under bad weather conditions, it can affect the signal. So if water collects on the dish, it can impair the pictures.
So how do you deal with that?
Well, this particular dish has been treated, and these two are part of an experiment.
Yeah.
This one, if it rains heavily, will collect moisture, and that one it might do in a minute.
It might. Well, looking at the clouds, it might well rain in a minute.
Should
but
not.
Let's have a go with a pump.
Put plenty of water on this one.
Okay.
and
So it's
see
raining on here. Can we see that?
Raining.
Raining.
That's it.
And raining all over here. You can't really see it on the mesh dish too well, can you?
Well, if you put plenty on, you might eventually.
But anyway, you can see it on this...
on that bit there.
the LMB?
Yeah, the LMB. Now, and if you do a similar thing on the other one...
The treated dish.
The treated dish.
It's pretty
moving.
hazardous
It's
being...
moving. It is, isn't it?
Being a satellite television freak, it's pretty hazardous, I have to tell you. Okay, so here we are. Oh, look at that. Look, little globules. Little globules of water falling off, and here it's just bouncing. Oh, that's clever. Why don't they paint cars in this? It's interesting the things you learn on this
All about
educational television, isn't
Isn't it just?
Yes. Okay. Right. Well, shall we continue our trip round the farm?
Let's.
Is it feeding time?
Very nearly.
Okay, fine. Oof, dear me. Right, now listen, Peter, here in the rose garden, a rose by any other name, but no, an ideal position for a satellite dish.
Yes, and this is a very small one, as you can see. It says on it BSB.
Yes.
DMAC. BSB is now British Sky Broadcasting, but this is the highest power satellite that we are receiving, hence the smallest dish. And this can be received on a dish like this or on the infamous or famous squarial that you heard such a lot about.
So can we get Astra on this one or not?
No, Astra isn't high enough power to be received on a smaller dish like this. And in any case, it's in a different direction. That one's looking at Astra.
Oh, I see.
And that's at 19 degrees east. This is at 31 degrees west.
So this is this
looking
way.
over there.
And that one's that way, so it's almost opposite, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 Okay, well,
Right.
let's see the rest of the inhabitants of the farm.
Right,
All
that way, I suggest.
This way, okay. Oop. Okay, Peter, now, this is Mr. Trax, is it?
It is indeed, made in Middlesbrough,
Yeah.
British firm, glass-reinforced plastic dish. Again, a prime focus.
Turn it into a pond when you get bored with satellites.
Absolutely, yes.
Now, it's got a lot of cobwebs under here as well. Does that make any
Good
difference or
point.
not?
Well, the spiders do.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, these little holes at the front here, where the signals go in, will also allow spiders to go in. And sometimes spiders crawl around in there and it loses your picture.
Really?
Yes, it's worth knowing about, is that?
You're not called the dish doctor for nothing, are you? No. What about this blue thing here?
The blue thing, remember we did the polarisation where I rotated the LNB? Inside there's a little motor which turns a device in there that does it for us. So we can change the polarisation on this from inside the house.
This is the sort of dish that the sort of clubs, sports clubs would have, isn't it? Where they have big satellite TVs. And
Possibly, if they wanted to look at several programmes from a lot of satellites, ranging from Cable News Network over to Mexico and Spain.
We're never likely to see these on every house in the country.
I shouldn't think
It's always
so.
going to be
The
an enthusiast.
It depends how much television you want to watch. If you're an expatriate Italian and you really want good signals all the time, this is the size of dish to get the pictures from Italy.
Excuse me. Right, let's move on.
Right.
Onwards. Now, here we are. This is rather nice. Nice green colour. This is environmentally very friendly, isn't it?
Yes, you see, you can have any colour you want.
Yeah, it makes nice noise too.
Yeah. This one is also a motorised one,
Yeah.
prime focus, but actually at the moment I've got it locked on a particular satellite, which is a French satellite. The LNB looks the same, but it covers different frequencies.
I see.
So there are half a dozen French programmes on this.
How on earth do you decide what to watch in the evening?
It's very difficult, James. I sort of record on 2 or 3 video recorders and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
What happens when you've got so many here? What happens when you don't use them anymore?
oh, well, we bury them.
Yeah.
The first one that I ever used was a bit bigger than this. Would you
First
like
one?
to see it?
Yeah,
The first
sure.
one.
Yeah.
Right, see it round the corner.
Okay. Come on. Where are we? Oh,
The old
prototype of
garage
the
door.
squarial.
There we are.
I thought this was the first squarial.
It could well be, couldn't it? Yes, for a low power dish, yes.
Oh, that's
one.
nice, yes.
Number one.
So what you had this on the roof or where?
Not really, but I had it on that rockery.
Did you?
Yes.
And that's what started it all off?
It was my first one, yes, certainly.
Yeah.
It's quite a heavy one.
Yeah.
Just feel it.
Echoes too?
Oh, it echoes, yes. Yeah.
You want to sink this down in the garden and put a few lily pads in there, a little water.
Good idea.
Nice idea.
We've got a goldfish pond next door. I could have one.
Let's go and have a coffee.
What a good idea.
Pop the square reel back. Ah, right. Very nice of you to invite us for tea, I must admit. Right. Oh, my golly. Now,
Here we've got a picture like you saw at home last night. Astra on a small dish. And Graham asked us, didn't he, whether he could put the dish in the loft. Well, that's the same sort of thing as if you had a heavy rainstorm or something like that. This represents the amount of signal we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And if we simulate a rainstorm or a loft roof by using a piece of perspex, you might be able to see the effect.
Okay.
And this is the most requested problem that I deal with.
this is the biggest problem people have.
The biggest problem is sparklies.
Okay, now, Cecil, Cecil, hello, Cecil, if you're there, could you roll sparklies, please? Over.
There,
we
can
are.
you see
Yeah.
we've got some black and some white? He's fallen off the roof. There we are.
Mm-hmm.
Black and white. And this signal strength goes down each time it's put in, so we get black and white sparklies. If you get black and white sparklies, it means that the signal is weak. So the dish could be not pointing at the satellite, there could be something coming in front of it, a tree could be growing in front of it, or you could be having it in a loft and
So-
it was reducing the signal.
Sparklies are
Poor
pussy,
signal,
or poor
weak,
signal.
weak
Yeah.
signal. Now, there are other sorts of sparklies that we ought to describe as well,
Mm-hmm.
because they apply under other circumstances. This particular set that I'm using has the ability to tell you what frequency it is tuned to. So that's on frequency for screen sport, and if we go below that frequency on screen sport, we start to see sparklies which are predominantly black. So the black sparklies on their own mean that the channel is tuned below its frequency. If we go above the channel frequency, the sparklies are white. So we've got three different sorts of sparklies that we can easily recognise. If they are black and white sparklies, it indicates a weak signal for some reason or other. If they are black sparklies, it means your channel is tuned below the frequency it should be. And if they are white sparklies, it means your channel is tuned above the frequency it should be.
Right, Dish Doctor, so that's sparklies. Now, what other advantages do you have with satellite as opposed to terrestrial television?
Well, a good programme here, Screen Sport. This particular one transmits its commentaries in various languages. For example, on this particular audio frequency, it should be talking in English.
I've seen on ABC and now here.
Well, American. Near enough, yes.
Basic English, okay?
Yeah.
Now then, if we then change that frequency to 702, there you have the German.
So any country can take the pictures from this satellite channel and put their own commentary on.
Well, it would be possible,
Yeah.
yes.
I
And
see.
if we now go up to
French?
French,
French? Yeah, oui, oui. C'est voulu.
or up to 7.56,
Yeah.
and you've got a Dutchman.
Hang on, let's have a listen to him. Yeah. He doesn't say much. The Dutch don't say much, do they?
Not really.
No,
no.
no.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
He doesn't. Here he goes.
6 strikes in de eerste ronde.
Early. Yes, so you can actually have fun, really, tuning into different commentaries, see who gets
of
most
course.
excited about the same programme. Yeah?
And again with the satellite advantages that also a number of these channels on some of those audio subcarriers transmit radio programs, satellite radio programs are
Really?
there, and stereo programs. And what's more, to receive satellite stereo, you don't need a NICAM decoder like you do for the terrestrial programs, because they send out the left and the right-hand channels of the stereo signal on two separate subcarriers. And there's one other little thing that one of the channels is doing, and I'll save it as a final demonstration for you because I think you'll like it, because they do 3D television.
3D.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'll
But
look forward
before
to
we do that, I think we ought to discuss the general television standards throughout
Okay.
world.
Well, it's getting very, very warm in here, so let's
Isn't
go
it?
and sit down and
Right.
cool off a little
Let's
bit.
do that.
Okay. Okay, motivational walk to the settee. Peter, there we are.
Oh.
Right. Oh,
Right.
golly.
So we've seen...
Wearing business is watching television, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, standards.
Standards, right. In America, they use a different television standard to us.
Yeah.
If you were in America, you would be watching NTSC. Here in Europe, we're watching PAL. If you were in Russia or France, you'd be watching another system called CCAM.
Why don't we make it all the same?
Goodness knows.
Oh.
Goodness knows. We ought to have done, really. But those three that we've talked about are really variations on the original theme of NTSC. OK? Now, we've already explained that generally we can't see the American satellites because they're below our horizon.
Right.
So I cannot illustrate an American program easily. But if you remember the green dish outside, I said that was on a French satellite.
Yeah.
Now, I can show you the pictures from that green dish
Right.
by changing over on this receiver, and there's one of the French programs.
Now, why is this in black and white?
That's because this is in CCAM, and we have several, 5 or 6 different
Oh, that
programs.
looked interesting. Go back to that one. Oh, right, no, okay.
All right?
Yes.
I'll switch the switch for you if you want.
All right, well,
Cecil's going to switch the switch.
very good.
Yeah.
Right, so there we have it in black
Right.
and white with a little transcoder. There's some colour.
Yes, I see. So, I mean, you get a decoder for whichever sort of...
Some television sets have those built in, but unfortunately, there is another reason why you need decoders. People who don't want you to watch a particular program without paying for it
Yeah.
require that you have a decoder to descramble that program. And in your particular case, if you think of the Sky movies that you can look at, you get a message like that saying, please insert the card.
Yeah.
Until you insert the card, it doesn't resolve that picture.
Ah, I see.
And that's a form of scrambling or encryption.
Yeah.
In fact, as far as this country is concerned, the only official decoders that are allowed in this country are for Sky movies.
So what about all these other decoders that people are selling in these satellite shops? Are these
Well,
all
they are unofficial, certainly.
under the counter?
Yes,
I
and
see.
the reason being that just like with Sky movies, where they are not allowed because of the copyright people who own the films, to show Sky movies anywhere outside the United Kingdom, you can't get Sky movies decoders officially in Europe or Spain. In fact, our troops in Germany cannot watch Sky movies
Yeah.
because they're not allowed to do it. On the other hand, FilmNet has the copyright for Scandinavia and parts of Europe, and FilmNet is official in those parts of the Europe.
But you can get a decoder here to...
You
to-
can get a pirate
Right.
or unofficial decoder, but the problem with that is that they may well change their scrambling system from time to time, and it could well make those quite useless.
Yeah, okay. Now, you did mention earlier on 3D TV.
I did, and you can get this at home when the particular programme is on. It's
Oh,
not
good.
on at this moment,
Yeah.
so I recorded it specially for you.
What programme?
It's a programme called Tutti Frutti, and it's on RTL Plus.
Yes.
And you need some of those to
I
see
need some
it.
of these.
Don't put them on yet, because the man on the telly will tell you when to put them on.
Oh, right, okay. Fantastic.
Hugo Egon Barder.
This is one of your favourite programmes?
It could be said that it is, yes.
Yes, okay, fine.
It's
It's a
putting
quiz
it-
show, I see. It's a quiz show.
It's a striptease show, actually.
Oh, is it?
Put your glasses on.
Oh, right, okay. Hang on, take these off. Right.
You definitely get the three-dimensional effect, don't you, James? Can you see everything, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yes, it's like those little things behind are kind of...
That's
in the-
right.
Yeah, it's almost as if they're here with us in the room.
Exactly. You can
Yes.
see the little spectacles in the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Of course, I don't approve of this sort of thing, I have
No,
to be quite honest with you. I think it really devalues women.
Never see things like this on your show, would you?
No, not at all. Not at all. Well, we might do. We've had men doing this, so I don't see any reason why not.
No, that's a thought.
Yes.
So, at the moment, you don't get three-dimensional television on terrestrial TV.
What?
You don't get three-dimensional television on...
No.
So,
I wonder what her name is. There we are, Peter. I don't think I've worked so hard for ages. Now, what is this? Red or white? Take these off. Actually, the producer, Cecil, thought it would be quite entertaining. But,
did he?
Yeah. He doesn't have what you'd call a sense of humour.
Not as entertaining as Tutti Frutti, perhaps?
No. Well, yes, I must admit I was a bit taken back by that.
Were you?
That's not the only reason people get satellite television, is it?
I'm sure it isn't, no.
No.
Anyway, James, a couple of exhausting days.
They were indeed.
Cheers.
Hmm.
The real point of the exercise, though, is will anyone have learnt anything? For instance, have you learnt anything?
Yes, I think so.
Right,
yes.
we'll have a few questions.
Go on, then.
OK. Who was the man who first thought about having satellites for communication purposes?
The man who first.
The man who first.
The man who first came up with the idea.
Came up with the idea. Who would you think that might be?
I think it was definitely Arthur C. Clarke.
Fair enough.
Right.
And so, in his honour, what have they called the position where all the satellites are parked?
The Clarke Belt.
Absolutely. Now then, if you're sitting in Northern Hemisphere, in Yorkshire or Lancashire or London or anywhere, where generally would you see the Clarke Belt?
In the south.
In the south.
In fact, I look at my road, and it's not far off it.
Exactly, because your road runs north and south.
Yeah.
OK. Fine.
We should make the point that not everybody lives on a road that runs north and south.
So they should check the map.
They must check the map.
Or buy a compass.
Or buy a compass.
Or, if you're very sophisticated, you could use a special instrument.
One of those little Ujima flips.
A sextant.
Absolutely, yes. Azimuth.
Azimuth, that way.
Yep. And...
elevation, up and down.
Yep. Yes, I've
Fair
got
enough.
those. Yep.
OK. Is it necessarily the dish that's ugly, or is it the position that the dish is fixed that makes them ugly?
I think it's obviously the position of the dish. And, you know, when you hear about little villages and towns in different areas, I think there's one in Yorkshire, I can't remember the name of it, where somebody passes a law saying, we're not ever having satellite television here. It's rather like the man who refused to recognise that the motor car was going to take over from the horse. And I'm surprised that there are people like that still around, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with a carefully positioned dish, with someone who's got environmental situations, oh, rubbish.
Shall we do a take two on that? Fine, OK.
Environmental issues.
Take two.
People who are aware of the environment might be able to cite dishes so that they're not ugly.
Precisely. By the fruit trees, in the garden, on the patio.
And it isn't necessary for them to be very high, on chimneys, for example.
Yeah. They can be on the ground.
Yeah.
As long as they can see
to the satellite.
The satellite.
Clear line of sight to the satellite.
Well, I think we've had a taster. And, of course, if people buy the satellite
TV
Europe, they can read your column in here.
Yes.
The Dish Doctor, Peter Pearson. And you can also write to Peter if you have any queries on satellite television, whether you're thinking of getting a system or whether you have a system that you don't think you're getting the best out of. So, until we meet again, happy satellite television.
Cheers.
Cheers. You lot can now pack up.
Well, as you can see, we all had a lot of fun making this video, and we hope you've had as much fun watching it. But if you're not having fun with your system, you can always write to me at Satellite TV Europe, 531 to 533 Kings Road, London, SW10 OTZ. Happy viewing until next time.